Shut it, peg leg. Nobody wants a cripple serving their food. The words slice through the fluorescent buzz of McDonald's at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in Oak Ridge, Oregon. Three men crowd around a woman with a titanium prosthetic leg. Their laughter echoes off the tiled walls like broken glass. Derek Hayes, 42 years old and built like the construction foreman he claims to be, towers over her with bloodshot eyes and bourbon breath. Sarah Miller adjusts her grip on the aluminum crutch, the Ruby's Cafe delivery bag still strapped across her shoulder. Order number 447 sits warm inside. 3 breakfast platters meant for the night shift at Henderson Farm. Her prosthetic leg, a sleek titanium design that replaced what she lost in Kandahar province 8 years ago, gleams under the harsh restaurant lighting. "I asked you a question, soldier girl," Derek slurs, reaching for her crutch. His companions, Mike Torres and Brad Coleman, form a semicircle behind him, their work boots scraping against the wet floor. "You deaf too? Or just too proud to answer a real American?" Sarah's blue eyes scan the room with practiced efficiency. 2 exits, front and emergency. 3 potential weapons within reach. Hot coffee pot, metal tray, fire extinguisher. 1 terrified teenage cashier named Randy, pressing himself against the soft-serve machine. 0 other customers at this hour. Her combat training from Delta Force whispers calculations, but she keeps her expression neutral, maintains her cover as just another small-town delivery driver. Derek's thick fingers wrap around her crutch and yank. The aluminum support clatters to the floor, skittering across dirty tiles. "Crawl for it," he sneers, his wedding ring catching the light as he gestures mockingly. "Show us how America's heroes really move." Mike Torres laughs, a harsh sound that dies suddenly when thunder rolls through the parking lot. Not weather, but the distinctive rumble of Harley-Davidson engines. 5 of them, their chrome pipes announcing arrival like war drums. Right at this moment when Derek threw that crutch down, if that detail made you pause with anger, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss what Sarah actually discovers about these bikers. If you find this story worth sharing, please hit the thanks button once to support more content like this. Quick question. What state are you listening from? Do you have 24/7 McDonald's like here in Oak Ridge? The glass door swings open with enough force to rattle its frame. Raymond "Crusher" Thompson enters first, and the temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. 6 feet 4 inches of controlled menace. 280 pounds of muscle and calculated threat. His gray-streaked beard reaches halfway down his leather vest. The Iron Skull's Oregon chapter patch sits prominent on his back. A chrome skull wearing an iron crown, red eyes that seem to follow movement. 4 more bikers file in behind him. Deacon Mills, wiry and dangerous like a coiled spring. Tank Morrison, with arms thick as bridge cables. Rattler Jones, whose neck tattoos tell stories of violence. And Viper, the lone woman, her short dark hair framing eyes that miss nothing. Each wears the same patches, the same calculated expressions of barely contained aggression. Thompson's boots create a steady rhythm as he crosses the restaurant. Derek starts to speak, but the words die in his throat when Thompson gets close enough that their height difference becomes clear. Thompson looking down at him like a mountain observing an anthill. "The lady dropped something," Thompson says, his voice rumbling from somewhere deep in his chest. Each word deliberate, spacing them like bullets. "Pick it up." Derek's face flushes red, alcohol courage wrestling with survival instinct. "This ain't your business, biker trash. We're having a conversation with—" The movement happens faster than drunk eyes can track. Deacon Mills slides behind Derek, his hands finding pressure points with surgical precision. Derek's arms lock at impossible angles. His face contorts in sudden pain. Mike and Brad stumble backward, their bravado evaporating like morning mist. "The lady," Thompson continues as if nothing happened, bending down to retrieve Sarah's crutch himself, said no. He extends the aluminum support to Sarah with unexpected gentleness. his massive hand dwarfing the handle. "You okay, miss?" Sarah accepts the crutch, her trained eyes catching details others would miss. The way Viper positions herself with clear sight lines to both exits. How Tank and Rattler bracket the three drunk men without seeming to. The micro-glance Thompson exchanges with the cashier Randy, who suddenly finds the register deeply fascinating. Most telling, Thompson knows exactly where the security cameras are, angling his body to ensure the confrontation stays in frame. "I'm fine," Sarah says, playing her role while her mind catalogues irregularities. "Thank you." Thompson's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Deacon, help these gentlemen understand about respect." What follows is brief but comprehensive. Deacon releases Derek only to guide him face first onto a table with a wet thud. Mike tries to run, but Tank's hand on his shoulder stops him like hitting a wall. Brad drops to his knees without being touched, hands raised in surrender. The whole sequence takes 12 seconds. "Apologize," Thompson commands, and Derek's muffled voice immediately complies, followed by stammering sorries from Mike and Brad. "Louder! We're sorry! We're really sorry, ma'am!" The three men chorus their apologies, fear replacing intoxication in their voices. Sarah watches the performance. Because that's what this is, she realizes with cold certainty. These men aren't randomly drunk. Derek's stumbling is too controlled. Mike keeps checking his watch. Brad's fear feels rehearsed. The Iron Skulls didn't randomly arrive at exactly the right moment. This is theater, and she's been cast in a role without auditioning. "Get out," Thompson tells the three men, and they scramble for the exit, Derek limping dramatically despite Deacon barely touching him. The bell chimes their departure. Tires squeal in the parking lot. Silence descends, except for the hum of refrigeration units. Thompson turns back to Sarah, and now his smile seems genuine, which makes it infinitely more dangerous. "Sarah Miller, right? You deliver for Ruby's Cafe?" She doesn't remember telling him her name. "That's right. Marge Wilson speaks highly of you," he continues, demonstrating knowledge of her employer. "Says you're reliable, trustworthy, someone who knows how to handle difficult situations." His emphasis on the last phrase carries weight. We appreciate those qualities in Oak Ridge. Viper steps forward, offering a bottle of water that Sarah didn't see her retrieve. "You should sit down. That must have been frightening." Her voice carries a slight southern accent, probably Alabama, maybe Georgia. But her eyes are conducting threat assessment, cataloging Sarah's reaction time, her balance on the prosthetic, the way she holds the crutch like someone who knows how to use aluminum as a weapon. "I should finish my delivery," Sarah says, adjusting the Ruby's bag on her shoulder. "The Henderson order is getting cold." "At midnight?" Thompson's eyebrow raises slightly. "Bill Henderson works his farm at interesting hours." Another piece of information he shouldn't have. Sarah's internal alarms are screaming now, but she maintains her delivery driver persona. "Night shift during harvest season. I just go where Marge sends me." Thompson nods slowly, processing this. Behind him, Randy the cashier finally speaks up, voice cracking. I should call the police. About those men, file a report." "No need," Thompson says without turning around. "They've learned their lesson, haven't they, Randy?" The teenager nods quickly, too quickly. "Yes, sir, definitely. Lesson learned." Sarah catches the exchange. The way Randy's hand trembles as he wipes down a clean counter. The way his eyes dart to a spot under the register where Sarah suspects an envelope might be hidden. This entire production has been staged. But for whose benefit? And more importantly, why? "We should let Ms. Miller get back to her delivery," Thompson announces. But his tone suggests this is far from over. But first, Oak Ridge is changing, Sarah. New opportunities arriving. New protections needed. He produces a business card, black with silver text, just the Iron Skulls logo and a phone number. "In case you ever need real help. Not the kind Sheriff Collins provides. sitting in his office playing solitaire while good people get harassed. Sarah accepts the card, noting the weight of the card stock. Expensive, professional, not what you'd expect from a motorcycle club passing through town. Are you staying long in Oak Ridge? We're establishing a presence, Thompson replies, the words carefully chosen. The summer festival starts in 3 days. Lots of visitors coming to town. Wouldn't want any more incidents like tonight. He pauses, letting the implications settle. Especially for someone who's already sacrificed so much for this country. The reference to her military service is the final confirmation. They've researched her. They know about Afghanistan, probably about her Delta Force training, definitely about her medical discharge after the IED. The question becomes, how much do they know about what she did after the military? The 7 years of classified operations that don't officially exist. I appreciate the concern, Sarah says, sliding the card into her pocket, where it sits against her encrypted phone, the one linked to a network of 12 other veterans living quietly in Oak Ridge, all trying to leave violence behind, all capable of extraordinary violence when needed. But I manage fine on my own. Thompson's smile returns, predatory and knowing. Everyone needs friends, Sarah, even lone wolves. He turns to his crew. Let's ride. The Rusty Nail is still open, and I'm buying rounds. They file out in reverse order, Viper last, her backward glance catching Sarah watching. The motorcycles roar to life outside, their departure shaking the windows. Only when the sound fades completely does Randy collapse against the counter, breathing hard. At this point, Sarah has 2 choices: accept Thompson's protection or expose the setup right there. What would you do in her position? Comment below with your decision. Would you play along or call them out immediately? Sarah approaches the counter, her crutch tapping a steady rhythm. Randy, how much did they pay you? The teenager's face cycles through emotions: surprise, denial, guilt, fear. I don't know what you mean. The envelope under the register, the one you kept checking, the way you knew Thompson's name without him introducing himself. Sarah's voice stays gentle, understanding. How much? Randy's shoulders slump. 19 years old, community college student, working graveside to pay tuition. $500, he whispers. They said nobody would get hurt. Said it was just to make a point. What point? That the town needs protection. Real protection. Randy looks up, eyes wet. They knew you'd be here. Knew your delivery schedule. Knew everything. Sarah processes this, mind already connecting dots. The Iron Skulls haven't randomly chosen Oak Ridge. This isn't about protection money or small-town intimidation. This is about something bigger. The summer festival, 8,000 expected visitors, cash transactions, overwhelmed local law enforcement. Perfect cover for a major drug distribution operation. Randy, listen carefully, Sarah says, pulling out her regular phone, not the encrypted one. I'm going to call Sheriff Collins. You're going to tell him those 3 men harassed me but left when other customers arrived. You don't mention the Iron Skulls. You definitely don't mention the money. Understand? He nods quickly. But won't they? They won't do anything to you, Sarah assures him, though she's already calculating protection protocols. You're more valuable to them as an asset than a liability. Just play your part. She makes the call, reports the incident in basic terms, declines to press charges. Sheriff Collins sounds tired, distracted, promises to increase patrols. The exact response Thompson would have predicted. After hanging up, Sarah turns back to Randy. The 500. Keep it. Consider it tuition assistance. But if Thompson contacts you again, you call this number. She writes digits on a napkin. Not her real number, but one that forwards through 3 proxies to a burner phone. Don't save it in your phone. Memorize and destroy. Randy takes the napkin like it might explode. Who are you really? Just a delivery driver, Sarah says, adjusting her Ruby's bag, who needs to get breakfast to Henderson Farm before it gets cold. She leaves through the front door, noting fresh tire marks in the parking lot. Not just the motorcycles, but a fourth vehicle, probably a van or SUV, parked where it would have perfect sight lines to the McDonald's interior, but stay outside camera range. Professional surveillance positioning. The ride to Henderson Farm takes 12 minutes on her modified bicycle, the one with reinforced frame and hidden compartments she installed herself. The titanium leg works smoothly with the custom pedals, a system she designed during recovery. Most people see disability. She's created advantage. The country road is empty, except for nocturnal wildlife, but Sarah knows she's being followed. Not obviously. The iron skulls are too smart for that. But somewhere behind her, probably using infrared, someone is confirming she's actually making the delivery, maintaining her cover. Henderson Farm appears ahead. Porch light on as always. Bill Henderson, 71 years old, former Marine Scout sniper with confirmed kills in Vietnam that he never discusses, stands in the doorway before she even reaches the driveway. His rifle, ostensibly for coyotes, leans against the doorframe. "You're late," he says, but his eyes are scanning the road behind her. "Had some trouble in town," Sarah replies, handing over the food bag. Then, quieter, "Iron skulls. They're making their move." Bill's expression doesn't change, but his hand shifts slightly on the rifle stock. "How many?" "5 that showed themselves. Probably 15 to 20 total, based on the setup complexity. They're not passing through. The festival? Almost certainly. Bill, they knew my schedule. They knew about Afghanistan. This isn't random." The old Marine processes this, his weathered face revealing nothing. "Frank Weber mentioned seeing motorcycles near the old mill warehouse yesterday. Might be worth investigating." Frank Weber, another piece of Oak Ridge's hidden network. Former Special Forces, now the town handyman who somehow always appears when certain types of problems need solving. Sarah nods, understanding passing between them without words needed. "I should go," she says. "They're watching." "Sarah!" Bill's voice stops her. "If this is what I think it is, we're going to need everybody." Everybody. 12 veterans scattered through Oak Ridge, living quiet lives, carrying invisible scars, pretending their particular skills are forgotten. A Delta Force operator delivering food, a Navy SEAL running the medical clinic, a Force Recon Marine teaching elementary school, others with backgrounds that don't officially exist, all drawn to this small Oregon town where they thought they could disappear. "I'll make the calls," Sarah promises, mounting her bicycle. "But Bill, something's different about this. They didn't just research me. They knew exactly how I'd react to the staged confrontation. They're not just criminals. They're running operations." Bill's smile is grim. Then they picked the wrong town. The ride back to Oak Ridge takes her past the old mill warehouse. And sure enough, lights that shouldn't be on glow through dirty windows. She counts motorcycles in the yard. 12 visible, probably more inside. A black SUV with tinted windows sits apart from the bikes, engine running, someone waiting inside. She doesn't stop, doesn't obviously observe, just a tired delivery driver heading home after a long shift. But her phone is already recording video, the hidden camera she installed in her helmet, capturing everything for later analysis. Derek was just a pawn, Randy was bought off, and Viper had been watching Sarah for days before tonight. If Thompson really orchestrated this entire confrontation, can Sarah and 12 veterans actually stop a $50 million operation in 72 hours? The climax is coming right after this thought. By the time she reaches her small house on the outskirts of town, Sarah has formulated the beginning of a plan. Not to confront the Iron Skulls directly, that would endanger civilians, but to disrupt their operations, expose their intentions, and protect Oak Ridge during the festival. Inside, Eleanor Miller sits at the kitchen table despite the late hour. her own cup of coffee growing cold. At 68, she still has the sharp features Sarah inherited, though her blonde hair has turned silver and arthritis has twisted her hands into painful angles. A loaded .38 Special sits on the table beside her coffee. She heard the motorcycles too. They made contact, Sarah says. No need for preamble. Eleanor nods. The scanner's been busy. 3 units responding to drunk and disorderly at McDonald's, but no arrests. Convenient. It was staged, the whole thing. They're setting up for something major during the festival. And they picked you specifically, Eleanor observes, her voice carrying the weight of a mother who sent her daughter to war and got back someone forever changed. Why? Sarah pulls out the black business card, sets it on the table. Because they think they can use me, turn me into an asset. They know about Afghanistan, but not about what came after. They see the leg and assume weakness. Eleanor's laugh is sharp, brittle. Their first mistake. Mom, if this escalates, I was an army nurse in Vietnam, Eleanor interrupts. I've seen escalation. This is our home, Sarah. You do what you need to do. Sarah squeezes her mother's twisted hands gently, then heads to the basement. The hidden room behind the false wall contains her real life, the weapons, communications equipment, and files from 7 years of operations that officially never happened. She inputs a code into the encrypted system, sending a single message to 11 other phones in Oak Ridge. The pack has arrived. 72 hours to the festival. Time to wake up. Within minutes, responses light up her screen. Frank Weber confirms. Doc Wilson acknowledges. Jim Parker ready. Others checking in, the network activating like antibodies responding to infection. Sarah studies the map of Oak Ridge spread on her tactical table, marking positions, calculating approaches. The Iron Skulls think they've found an easy target. A small town with minimal law enforcement. A populace they can intimidate. A perfect hub for their expansion. They're about to learn that some small towns have teeth, and some delivery drivers deliver more than food. Outside, a motorcycle engine growls in the distance, circling, probing, testing. Sarah checks her weapons, sets her alarms, and prepares for the storm that's coming. The summer festival is in 72 hours. By then, Raymond Crusher Thompson will understand the price of underestimating Oak Ridge, and especially the price of underestimating a delivery girl with a titanium leg and skills that don't appear on any official record. The first phase is complete. The players are positioned. The game has begun. Tomorrow, the real work starts. Wednesday morning arrives with coastal fog that turns Oak Ridge into a ghost town of shadows and whispers. Sarah Miller sits in Ruby's cafe at 5:45 a.m., 3 hours after leaving Henderson Farm, running on combat adrenaline and black coffee. The breakfast rush won't start for another hour, giving her time to think, plan, and coordinate. Marge Wilson emerges from the kitchen, her weathered face showing concern. At 62, she's owned Ruby's for 3 decades, inherited from her mother. She knows everyone's business, but keeps her own counsel. This morning, though, she has questions. Heard about last night, Marge says, refilling Sarah's cup without being asked. Randy called me at home, said the Iron Skulls saved you from those drunks. Sarah notes the emphasis on saved. Marge doesn't believe it either. News travels fast in Oak Ridge, faster when it's meant to. Marge glances toward the window where Main Street remains empty, except for morning fog. Thompson was in here yesterday afternoon, asking questions about delivery schedules, specifically yours. Offered to provide security for the festival, $5,000 for 3 days of protection. What did you say? Told him I'd think about it. But Sarah. Marge leans closer, voice dropping. He already knew I'd say no. It was like he was going through motions, creating a paper trail. He even had one of his boys, Deacon, taking photos of the conversation. Documentation. They're building a narrative. Sarah recognizes the technique from her classified work. Create evidence that supports whatever story you need to tell later. The question becomes, what story are the Iron Skulls planning to tell? The cafe door chimes, and Frank Weber enters, dressed in his usual flannel and work pants, but moving with purpose that betrays his Special Forces training. He takes the booth behind Sarah, back to back, allowing them to talk without appearing to. Warehouse is definitely their base, Frank murmurs, voice barely audible over the coffee machine's hum. Counted 18 bikes this morning. 2 panel vans arrived at 4 a.m. Nevada plates. Whatever they're moving, it's already here. Sarah processes this. Nevada means possible cartel connections. The timing suggests they're ahead of schedule. Anyone else up this early? Doc Wilson's been at his clinic since midnight. Says he's doing inventory, but he's really setting up the emergency trauma station. Jim Parker's at the school, supposedly preparing for summer programs, but actually mapping evacuation routes. The network is mobilizing without formal coordination, each member instinctively knowing their role. Sarah pulls out her regular phone, scrolls through local social media. The Iron Skulls are already becoming visible online. Photos from the Rusty Nail last night showing Thompson buying drinks for locals, Viper chatting with young women about motorcycle culture, members helping someone change a flat tire on Highway 58. They're running a Hearts and Minds campaign, Sarah observes, making themselves look like protectors before the festival. When something goes wrong, and they'll make sure something does, they'll be positioned as the solution. Frank grunts agreement. Classic insurgency tactics. We use the same playbook in Afghanistan, which means they have someone with military experience planning this. Sarah thinks about Thompson's calculated movements, the tactical positioning of his team. This isn't a standard biker gang expansion. It's an operation. The door chimes again. This time it's someone unexpected. Sheriff Tom Collins, looking haggard despite the early hour. 55 years old, former Portland cop who moved to Oak Ridge for a quieter life. He's competent but overwhelmed. He spots Sarah and approaches directly. Ms. Miller, about last night's incident. It's handled, Sheriff, Sarah says, maintaining her cover as the cooperative victim. I don't want any trouble. Collins sits down uninvited, his expression shifting from official to concerned. That's the thing. I don't think you have a choice. The Iron Skulls have been in town for 3 days. In that time, we've had 2 accidents at businesses that refused their protection. And now this incident with you. He pulls out a notebook, flips pages. Derek Hayes, the man who harassed you. He owes the Iron Skulls $15,000 from an underground poker game in Grants Pass. Sarah exchanges a glance with Marge, who's stopped pretending to clean the counter. You're saying they made him do it? I'm saying Derek's construction company just got a contract to provide security barriers for the festival. Paid in advance, cash. Exact amount of his debt plus a little extra. Collins closes his notebook. Mike Torres and Brad Coleman, the other 2 from last night, both just had their overdue mortgages mysteriously paid off. The precision of it impresses Sarah despite herself. The Iron Skulls aren't just threatening people. They're creating financial dependencies, buying loyalty through targeted debt relief. It's brilliant and insidious. Why are you telling me this? Sarah asks. Collins hesitates, then leans forward. Because I ran your name after the incident. Standard procedure. Except your file is interesting. Military service record ends abruptly in 2016. Then nothing for 7 years. Then suddenly you're back in Oak Ridge caring for your mother. His eyes are sharp now, the Portland cop showing through. That's a very specific kind of gap, Ms. Miller. The kind that usually means federal service. Sarah keeps her expression neutral. I worked for a government contractor. Administrative work, nothing exciting. Right. Collins clearly doesn't believe her but doesn't push. Here's what I know. The Iron Skulls are planning something for the festival. I've got 2 deputies and 3 part-time officers to cover 8,000 visitors. State police are tied up with wildfire evacuations. FBI says they need probable cause for a task force. He stands, drops a business card on the table. So if someone with administrative experience happens to notice anything actionable, I'd appreciate a heads up. He leaves, the door chiming his departure. Marge immediately locks it, flips the sign to closed despite being an hour from opening. "All right," she says, hands on hips. "What's really going on?" Sarah makes a decision. Marge has been part of Oak Ridge for longer than anyone. She deserves some truth. The Iron Skulls are setting up a drug distribution network. The festival is their launch point. They're going to flood the event with product, create connections with dealers from across the state, and establish Oak Ridge as a hub. Marge absorbs this, then nods decisively. "What do you need?" "Information. You hear everything that happens in this town. I need to know every interaction with the Iron Skulls, every business they approach, every person they recruit." "Done. What else?" Before Sarah can answer, her encrypted phone buzzes. "Doc Wilson. Emergency. My clinic. Now!" Sarah stands, grabbing her crutch. "I have to go." "But Marge, be careful. These aren't just bikers. They're organized crime with military precision. Don't confront them directly." "Honey," Marge says with steel in her voice, "I've run this cafe through 3 recessions, 2 floods, and a fire. I'm not backing down from some leather-wearing bullies." The fog has lifted slightly by the time Sarah reaches Doc Wilson's clinic, a converted Victorian house 3 blocks from Main Street. She enters through the back door, finding Doc in his office with 3 other people, Frank Weber, Bill Henderson, and someone unexpected. Lisa Chen, the town librarian. "They tried to recruit me," Lisa says without preamble. 43 years old, she moved to Oak Ridge 5 years ago, claims to be writing a novel, but Sarah has always suspected there's more to her story. "Viper approached me at the library yesterday, said they needed someone to handle their documentation. Offered me $2,000 a week." "Documentation of what?" Sarah asks. "Financial records, inventory lists, distribution networks." Lisa pulls out a flash drive. "I said I'd think about it. She gave me this as a sample of what I'd be working with." Doc Wilson, 71 years old with hands that have saved lives in combat zones and emergency rooms, plugs the drive into an air-gapped laptop. Files populate the screen: spreadsheets, maps, contact lists. It's a complete operational blueprint for drug distribution across 3 states. "This is evidence of a $50 million operation," Doc says, voice grave. "Look at these numbers. They're planning to move enough methamphetamine to supply the entire Pacific Northwest." Frank leans over, studying the screen with tactical interest. "These aren't just distribution routes, they're military supply lines. Whoever planned this understands logistics at a strategic level." Sarah notices something else. Embedded in the files are references to Operation Crossroads and coordinates that look familiar. She pulls up a map on her phone, inputs the numbers. They correspond to locations around Oak Ridge, including the festival grounds, the old mill warehouse, and, surprisingly, Ruby's Cafe. They're not just using the festival, she realizes. They're going to take over the town. These coordinates are strategic positions for controlling all traffic in and out of Oak Ridge. Bill Henderson, who's been silent until now, speaks up. "There's more. My neighbor, Tom Rodriguez, says the Iron Skulls approached him about storing vehicles on his property. Offered him $10,000 cash for 3 days' use of his barn. He said yes. He's about to lose the farm to foreclosure." The pattern becomes clear. The Iron Skulls aren't invading Oak Ridge. They're buying it, one desperate family at a time. By the time the festival starts, they'll have compromised enough locals that resistance becomes impossible. "We need to stop this," Frank says, stating the obvious. "How?" Lisa challenges. "Call the DEA? With what phone? They're probably monitoring everything. Drive to Portland? They're watching the roads. Email? Please. Sarah's been thinking about this problem since leaving Henderson Farm. We don't stop them directly. We disrupt them, make their operation so complicated, so full of friction, that they can't execute properly. Then we document everything and broadcast it during the festival when they can't silence us. Guerrilla warfare, Frank says with appreciation. I like it. Doc Wilson pulls up another file. There's a problem. Look at this timeline. They're not waiting for the festival. They're moving product tonight. This shows a major shipment arriving at 2 a.m. Distribution to begin immediately after. Tonight! That accelerates everything. Sarah's mind races through possibilities, calculating resources, evaluating risks. Then we start now. Frank, I need you to disable their vehicles. Nothing obvious, just enough to cause delays. Doc, can you trigger a health inspection at the warehouse? Something about chemical hazards? I can call in a favor with the State Health Department, Doc confirms. Bill, watch the roads. I want to know every vehicle that enters or leaves town. Lisa, Sarah pauses, considering. Can you hack their communications? Lisa's smile is sharp. Honey, why do you think I really moved to Oak Ridge? Retired NSA analysts need somewhere quiet to write their novels. The reveal doesn't entirely surprise Sarah. She'd suspected Lisa was more than a librarian. The network of hidden expertise in Oak Ridge runs deeper than even she knew. All right, we have 18 hours to create enough chaos to disrupt their shipment. But remember, no direct confrontation. We're all civilians as far as anyone knows. They disperse with practiced efficiency, each understanding their role without need for detailed instructions. Sarah heads back to Ruby's, but takes a circuitous route, confirming she's being followed. A single motorcycle maintaining distance. Probably Rattler based on the engine sound. She stops at the grocery store, the pharmacy, the post office, maintaining her delivery girl routine while her follower presumably reports her mundane activities. At each stop, though, she leaves something. A tiny camera at the grocery store's parking lot entrance. A GPS tracker attached to a Iron Skull's motorcycle at the pharmacy. A signal booster hidden in the post office bushes that will help Lisa intercept communications. By noon, the network has seeded Oak Ridge with surveillance equipment, all connected to Lisa's command post in the library basement. A room that officially doesn't exist. Sarah returns to Ruby's to find it busier than usual. Locals gathering for lunch and gossip about the Iron Skulls. She moves through her delivery routine but notices something odd. Derek Hayes is there, sitting in a corner booth, looking miserable but also watchful. She approaches with coffee, playing her role. Derek. He looks up, and she sees genuine remorse mixed with fear. Sarah. About last night. Thompson's orders? She asks quietly. His face confirms it before his words do. I didn't have a choice. The debt. They would have hurt my family. And now I'm supposed to watch you. Report who you talk to, where you go. His hands shake slightly. But I'm also supposed to tell you something. Thompson wants to meet with you. Tonight, 10 p.m. at the warehouse. A trap, obviously, but also an opportunity. And if I don't come? Derek's face pales. He said you would come. Said you're too curious not to. Said... He swallows hard. Said soldiers always scout enemy positions. The specific reference to military tactics confirms Sarah's suspicion. Someone in Thompson's organization knows exactly who she is, or at least what she used to be. This isn't recruitment. It's assessment. Tell Thompson I'll consider it, Sarah says, loud enough for anyone listening to hear. Then, quieter. Derek, after this is over, take your family and leave town for a few days. Whatever happens tomorrow night, you don't want to be here. Hope flickers in his eyes. You're going to stop them? Someone is. Maybe the DEA, maybe state police. But the Iron Skulls party is about to end. She moves away before he can respond, continuing her rounds, but her mind is already working through tactical scenarios. If she goes to the warehouse, she's walking into their stronghold. If she doesn't, they'll escalate, possibly endangering civilians to draw her out. Her encrypted phone buzzes. Frank. Problem. They've got kids. Sarah's blood goes cold. She steps into the cafe's back room, calls Frank directly. Explain. Jim Parker just reported 3 vans arrived at the warehouse. When they opened the doors, he counted at least 12 teenagers, maybe younger. They're using them as drug mules for the festival. Minors get lighter sentences if caught, and who suspects kids at a family event? The tactical situation just became infinitely more complicated. Any action against the Iron Skulls now risks hurting children who are victims themselves. Are they local kids? Unknown. Jim's trying to identify them through school records, but if they're from out of state… Sarah ends the call, her mind racing. This changes everything. They can't disrupt the operation if it puts minors at risk. But they also can't let the Iron Skulls use children as shields for their drug distribution. She returns to the dining room to find Viper waiting at the counter, having appeared with the silent efficiency of someone trained in surveillance. The woman's dark eyes track Sarah's movement, cataloging the slight favor of her left leg, the way she uses the crutch for balance rather than support. Sarah Miller, Viper says, voice carrying that Alabama drawl. Crusher would like to extend an invitation. Derek already delivered it, Sarah replies, not bothering with pretense. Did he? Viper's smile suggests she knew this. Good. Then you know it's not really a request. Everything's a choice. Is it? Viper leans forward slightly. Even when refusing puts others at risk. Thompson's particularly concerned about festival safety. Lots of families coming to town. Lots of children. Would be terrible if something went wrong because the right people didn't cooperate. The threat is clear but deniable. Sarah meets her gaze steadily. 10 o'clock. Come alone. Obviously. Viper stands, drops a $100 bill on the counter. For the coffee. And Sarah? That's a nice prosthetic. Titanium, right? Military grade? Must have cost the taxpayers quite a bit. Her eyes flick to Sarah's leg. Would be a shame if it got damaged. She leaves, and Sarah notices every customer in the cafe has gone silent, watching. The story will be all over town within an hour. The Iron Skulls threatening the disabled veteran. It's another move in their campaign, positioning themselves as either protectors or predators, depending on who cooperates. Marge approaches, voice low. You're not actually going alone. No, Sarah confirms, but they don't need to know that. She spends the afternoon coordinating with the network. Lisa has cracked the Iron Skulls' communications. They're using encrypted radios, but with commercial software that the NSA compromised years ago. She can monitor their chatter, though carefully to avoid detection. Doc Wilson's health inspection gambit worked partially. The state will investigate, but not until tomorrow afternoon, too late to stop tonight's shipment. Frank's vehicle sabotage is more successful. 3 motorcycles develop mysterious fuel line problems, and 1 van's engine seized after sugar somehow entered the gas tank. But it's not enough to stop the operation, only slow it. As evening approaches, Sarah prepares for the warehouse meeting. She selects equipment carefully. Nothing that would be found in a pat-down, but tools that might help if things go wrong. A ceramic knife in her prosthetic leg's hidden compartment. A GPS beacon that looks like a button. A recording device disguised as a hearing aid battery. Eleanor watches from the kitchen doorway. You're walking into a trap. Yes. With backup? Within striking distance. But Mom, Sarah turns to face her. If something happens, you need to leave town immediately. Go to Aunt Beth's in Seattle. Don't wait, don't pack, just go. Eleanor's expression hardens. I didn't run from the Viet Cong, and I'm not running from bikers. These aren't just bikers, I know what they are. Eleanor pulls out a manila folder from behind the flour container, hands it to Sarah. I did some research of my own today at the county records office. Sarah opens the folder to find property records, business licenses, and incorporation documents. Her eyes widen as she recognizes the pattern. They're not expanding into Oak Ridge. They're taking it over legally. Every property they've approached is either in foreclosure or owned by someone with significant debt. They're not randomly selecting businesses. They're systematically acquiring strategic locations. Eleanor points to specific documents. In 6 months, they'll own half the commercial property in town. This is bigger than drug distribution. This is community capture. The Iron Skulls are creating a company town where they control employment, housing, and law enforcement through sheer economic dominance. Mom, this needs to go to the FBI, not local police. Already done. Sent copies to a friend at the Portland field office 2 hours ago. Eleanor's smile is grim. But federal response time is 72 hours minimum. The festival will be over by then. Sarah hugs her mother carefully, mindful of the arthritis. Thank you. Go, Eleanor says. Do what you do best. Just come back. The drive to the warehouse takes 12 minutes. Sarah uses her modified bicycle despite the tactical disadvantages. Arriving in a vehicle would suggest preparation for escape. The bicycle implies confidence or naivety. Both useful impressions. The old mill warehouse looms against the night sky. Its broken windows like dead eyes. Floodlights have been installed, creating pools of harsh illumination, separated by deep shadows. Sarah counts sentries. 4 visible, probably 8 total based on coverage patterns. She's met at the gate by Tank Morrison, whose bulk makes her bicycle look like a child's toy. He doesn't speak, just gestures for her to follow. They pass through the fence, across the yard where 30 motorcycles sit in formation, and into the warehouse proper. The interior has been transformed into a criminal operations center. Tables loaded with wrapped packages, drugs ready for distribution, maps on the walls showing routes and territories, communications equipment that would be at home in a military command post, and in the center, Raymond "Crusher" Thompson, sitting behind a desk like a general preparing for war. But Sarah's attention fixes on the far corner where she can see them. 15 teenagers, some clearly minors, sitting on cots, looking scared, but also resigned. They're not restrained, but they don't need to be. Where would they run in unfamiliar territory, surrounded by armed criminals? Sarah Miller, Thompson says, drawing her attention back. The delivery girl with interesting gaps in her resume. Mr. Thompson, she replies, staying in character. You wanted to see me? I wanted to offer you an opportunity. He stands, his massive frame casting shadows across the mapped walls. Your town is changing whether you like it or not. The Iron Skulls are here to stay. You can be part of that change, help shape it, or you can be crushed by it. Dramatic much? Thompson's laugh is like gravel in a cement mixer. You military types appreciate direct communication, so here it is, direct. We know you're not just a delivery girl. We know about Delta Force, about Afghanistan, about the IED that took your leg. He lets that sink in. What we don't know is what you did for 7 years after discharge. But we can guess. Federal work, probably DEA or ATF. Maybe something more classified. Sarah maintains her expression. Speculation. Is it? You've been busy today. You and your network of veterans. Yes, we know about them too. Frank Weber, Bill Henderson, Doc Wilson. All with military backgrounds, all mysteriously choosing to live in the same small town. Thompson circles around his desk, moving closer. Almost like someone placed them here. A safeguard. Sleeper cell of patriots ready to activate if needed. The accuracy of his intelligence is disturbing. Someone has done deep research, connected dots that should have stayed scattered. Here's what's going to happen, Thompson continues. Tomorrow night during the festival, We're going to distribute enough product to establish ourselves as the primary supplier for the Pacific Northwest. Your veteran friends are going to do nothing to stop us, because if they do, he gestures toward the teenagers, these kids become casualties of war. And we both know soldiers hate collateral damage. You're using children as human shields, Sarah states flatly. I'm using every tactical advantage available. Something you should appreciate, Sergeant Miller. Sarah studies the warehouse layout, memorizing positions, calculating angles. The kids complicate everything, but they're also Thompson's weakness. He has to protect them too. Can't let them be harmed without losing his leverage. What exactly do you want from me? Thompson returns to his desk, pulls out a tablet. Simple. You're going to deliver packages tomorrow during the festival. Your regular route, normal behavior. Except some of your deliveries will be our product. You're above suspicion, disabled veteran, local hero. No one would ever suspect you. And if I refuse? Then accidents happen. Your mother's house is old. Electrical fires are common. Frank Weber works alone a lot. Construction sites are dangerous. Doc Wilson treats everyone, even people who might react violently to medical mistakes. Thompson's voice carries no emotion, just stating facts. Or we could go another way. These kids could start disappearing. Runaways happen all the time. Sarah feels the familiar cold clarity of combat descending. Thompson has overplayed. His threats are too broad, his plan too dependent on fear. He's a bully with logistics training, not a strategic thinker. I need time to consider, she says. You have until noon tomorrow. After that, we proceed without you, and consequences follow. Sarah turns to leave, but Thompson's voice stops her. One more thing. Your friend Lisa Chen, the librarian? She should be more careful with her dark web activities. The NSA might have retired her, but her digital fingerprints are all over our communications. We've been feeding her false information for the last 6 hours. Sarah's blood chills. If they've compromised Lisa's surveillance, the network is operating blind. Goodbye, Sergeant Miller. I look forward to your answer. She leaves, Tank escorting her to the gate in silence. As she pedals away, her mind processes the implications. The Iron Skulls know about the network, have compromised their communications, and are using children as leverage. Every tactical advantage has evaporated. But Thompson made one mistake. He showed his hand too early. He thinks he's won, thinks fear will paralyze the veterans. He doesn't understand that operators like them function best under impossible conditions. Sarah doesn't go home. Instead, she rides to the one place in Oak Ridge that's still neutral ground, the cemetery. It's there she finds them already assembled. Frank, Doc, Bill, Jim, Lisa, and 6 others she hasn't seen in months. The full network, 12 veterans with enough combined combat experience to take a small city. They know, Sarah says simply. We know they know, Frank replies. Been monitoring their monitoring of us. Lisa fed them garbage while pulling their real data through back doors they don't know exist. Sarah feels a surge of pride. The network is more capable than even she realized. The kids? She asks. Jim's identified them, Doc Wilson says. Runaways from Portland and Seattle. Been missing for weeks. Their families are looking for them. I've already contacted Child Services through back channels, but they can't move without evidence. Then we get evidence, Sarah decides. But first, we need to level the playing field. Bill Henderson pulls out a satellite phone, the kind that can't be monitored by conventional means. Made a call to some friends at JSOC. Turns out Thompson isn't just wanted for drug trafficking. He's connected to a domestic terrorism cell. The FBI's been looking for him for 6 months. This changes the tactical situation entirely. Domestic terrorism means federal response protocols, military involvement if necessary. How long until federal assets arrive? 48 hours if we're lucky. 24 if we can prove imminent threat. Sarah considers their options. They need to protect the festival, save the teenagers, and stop the Iron Skulls, all without causing panic or collateral damage. "We're going to steal their drugs," she announces. The group stares at her like she's lost her mind. "Think about it," she continues. "Without product, they can't distribute. Without distribution, they can't establish their network. And if the drugs mysteriously appear in, say, the sheriff's office with documentation of the Iron Skulls operation—" "It's insane," Frank says, then grins. "I love it." They spend the next 3 hours planning. The warehouse is too heavily defended for direct assault. But during the festival, when most of the Iron Skulls are distributed across town managing sales, security will be minimal. A small team could infiltrate, extract the drugs and the teenagers, and evacuate before anyone realizes what happened. "There's one problem," Lisa points out. "Thompson expects an answer from Sarah at noon. If she refuses, he'll accelerate everything. If she agrees, she'll be under surveillance." Sarah has been thinking about this. "Then I give him exactly what he wants. I agree to everything, become his inside asset, and then use that position to coordinate the raid from within." "You'll be surrounded by them during the festival," Doc warns. "If something goes wrong, then you continue the mission," Sarah says firmly. "The kids are priority 1. Stopping distribution is priority 2. Everything else, including me, is tertiary." The meeting breaks up at 3 a.m., each member disappearing into the darkness with practiced stealth. Sarah returns home to find Eleanor still awake, the .38 Special now joined by a shotgun and her old Army medical kit. "How bad?" Eleanor asks. "Manageable. We have a plan." "You always do." Eleanor stands with difficulty, arthritis making the movement painful. "There's something else. I didn't want to say earlier, but you should know. Your father would be proud of you." Sarah's father died when she was 12. A training accident at Fort Bragg that was classified for reasons never explained. But Eleanor's mention of him now, in this context, carries weight. "Mom? He wasn't just Special Forces, Sarah. He was part of something more, something that prepared for exactly this kind of threat. Foreign or domestic enemies establishing footholds in American communities." Eleanor pulls out a locked box Sarah has never seen before. "He left instructions. If certain conditions were ever met, I was to give you this." Inside the box is a challenge coin Sarah doesn't recognize, a phone number, and a single word: Crossroads. The same word that appeared in the Iron Skulls files. "Mom, what was Dad really?" Eleanor's smile is sad and proud simultaneously. Ask yourself why so many elite veterans chose to retire to the same small town. Why Oak Ridge? Why here? Your father helped establish this place as a sanctuary, but also as a watch post. The network isn't random, Sarah. It was designed. The revelation reframes everything. Oak Ridge isn't just home to random veterans. It's a intentional community, a tripwire for exactly this kind of threat. Who else knows? No one living except me. And now you. Eleanor touches the challenge coin. That number connects to people your father trusted. Use it if things go beyond what the network can handle. Sarah pockets the coin, her mind reeling from the implications. Her entire life in Oak Ridge, her father's death, the veteran's presence. It's all connected to something larger. But that's for later. Right now she has a drug operation to stop and teenagers to save. Thursday morning dawns clear and bright. Perfect festival weather. Sarah arrives at Ruby's at her normal time, maintains her routine, acts like nothing has changed. At 11:45 she rides to the warehouse, this time in broad daylight, openly. Thompson receives her in the same command center, but now it's bustling with activity. Iron Skulls members preparing packages, loading vehicles, coordinating positions. The teenagers are gone, probably already distributed to their positions. "Your answer?" Thompson asks without preamble. "I'll do it," Sarah says, "but I have conditions." Thompson's eyebrow rises. "You're hardly in a position to negotiate." "I'm exactly in position to negotiate. You need me because I'm trusted. Push too hard, and that trust becomes suspicion. Let me do this my way, and you get what you want." After a long moment, Thompson nods. "State your conditions." "First, I only deliver to adults. No kids, no schools, no youth areas. Second, I get paid up front, $10,000, cash, to ensure my cooperation. Third, after this weekend, our association ends. I won't become a permanent asset." Thompson considers this. The conditions are reasonable, the kind a frightened but practical person would demand. "Agreed. Viper will coordinate with you. First delivery is at 2 p.m., when the festival opens." Sarah accepts a package, noting its weight and dimensions. Inside are probably dozens of smaller packets, each worth hundreds on the street. She's holding enough felony weight to put her away for life. "One more thing," Thompson adds. "We'll be watching. Not just you, but your mother, your friends. Any deviation from the plan, any hint of betrayal, and people start dying. Clear?" "Crystal." Sarah leaves with the package, knowing at least 2 iron skulls are following her. She rides back to Ruby's, stores the package in her delivery bag alongside legitimate food orders, and begins her rounds. But hidden in her prosthetic leg is her encrypted phone, and she's already transmitting. The festival opens with typical small-town fanfare. Mayor Harrison gives a speech about community and tradition, while behind him, the Iron Skulls position themselves at strategic points. They're not hiding anymore. Leather vests visible, patches prominent, but behaving like security rather than criminals. Sarah makes her first delivery to a predetermined location, a food truck whose owner owes the Iron Skulls money. She hands over a legitimate sandwich order. The drugs stay in her bag. She's not actually distributing, just creating the appearance of compliance. Her second stop brings her past the library, where Lisa has established overwatch. A subtle hand signal. The teenagers have been located, scattered across 5 locations, each with an Iron Skulls handler. The extraction will be complicated. By 4 p.m., the festival is in full swing. Thousands of people fill the streets, music echoes from multiple stages, and children run between game booths while parents sample local crafts. It's Americana at its finest, about to be poisoned by drug dealers using kids as mules. Sarah continues her rounds, noting positions, counting opposition, calculating angles. The Iron Skulls have at least 30 members at the festival, more than expected, but they're spread thin, trying to cover too much ground. At 5:30, she passes Derek Hayes working his security barrier position. He looks miserable, trapped between duty and conscience. She makes a decision, breaks protocol, and stops beside him. "Derek, in exactly 30 minutes, you need to be at the medical tent with your family. Tell them your son has allergic reaction. Stay there no matter what you hear outside." His eyes widen. "What's going to—" "30 minutes," she repeats, then moves on before their interaction draws attention. Her phone vibrates. Frank. "Federal assets inbound. ETA 45 minutes. 45 minutes. The network has to hold for 45 minutes until FBI tactical teams arrive. But Thompson will execute his distribution before then, unless disrupted. Sarah makes her decision. Instead of returning to the warehouse as instructed, she diverts to the cemetery, where the network has staged their equipment. She opens her delivery bag, pulls out the drug package, and replaces it with an identical one filled with flour. "Going hot," she transmits, knowing the Iron Skulls might intercept but beyond caring. She returns to the festival as the sun begins to set, golden light painting everything in false warmth. Thompson stands near the main stage, surrounded by his lieutenants, watching her approach. His expression shifts from satisfaction to suspicion as she gets closer. "Delivery complete?" he asks. Sarah reaches into her bag, pulls out not the drugs but her father's challenge coin, holds it where he can see it. "You mentioned Operation Crossroads." Funny thing about that name, it was a military contingency plan from the 90s, a plan to prevent exactly what you're trying to do. Thompson's face changes, recognition dawning. "You're not just Delta Force, you're—" The lights go out. All of them, simultaneously, as Jim Parker's preparation pays off. He's cut power to the entire festival grid, plunging 8,000 people into darkness, broken only by phone screens and emergency lights. In the chaos that follows, the network strikes. 12 veterans moving with practiced precision through the darkness, extracting teenagers, securing evidence, neutralizing Iron Skull's members with non-lethal takedowns. They have night vision. The criminals don't. They have coordinated communication. The criminals don't. They have a plan. The criminals don't. Sarah doesn't see Thompson's fist coming in the darkness, takes it across the jaw, goes down hard. Her prosthetic leg twists, throws off her balance. Thompson's boot finds her ribs, and she feels something crack. "You think you've won?" he growls, dragging her behind the stage. "I've got 30 armed men here. Your little veteran squad can't—" The sound of helicopters cuts him off. Not one or two, but 5, their spotlights blazing to life, illuminating the festival grounds. FBI tactical teams fast roped down, weapons drawn, voices amplified. "Federal agents! Everyone freeze!" Thompson's hand goes for his weapon, but Sarah's ceramic knife is already out, slicing across his wrist, disabling his draw. He staggers back, and she sweeps his legs with her crutch, putting him on the ground. "Raymond Thompson," she gasps through broken ribs. "You're under arrest for domestic terrorism, drug trafficking, and conspiracy to commit murder." "You're not a federal agent," he spits. "No," Sarah agrees, as FBI agents surround them. "I'm just a delivery girl who delivers justice." The arrest happens quickly. Thompson is cuffed and dragged away, screaming about lawyers and conspiracies. His lieutenants surrender or flee, most caught within minutes by federal agents who seem to know exactly where to look. The teenagers are recovered, all 15, scared but unharmed. They're wrapped in blankets, given food and water, and reunited with families who'd feared the worst. The drugs are seized, $50 million worth, along with enough documentation to dismantle the Iron Skull's entire West Coast operation. Sarah sits on the medical tent cot, her ribs wrapped, her jaw swollen, watching Doc Wilson treat other casualties, mostly Iron Skull's members who discovered that elderly veterans can still fight when motivated. Sheriff Collins appears, looking overwhelmed but relieved. "The FBI says you're the one who called them." "I made a call," Sarah admits, "to a number my father left me. Turns out some contingency plans never expire." Collins nods, not fully understanding but accepting. "What happens now?" "Now?" "The festival continues. The town recovers. Life goes on." Sarah stands, testing her balance on the damaged prosthetic. "And I have deliveries to make tomorrow." Frank Weber materializes from the crowd, no longer the simple handyman. "That was beautiful. Messy, but beautiful." "Dad would have done it cleaner," Sarah replies. "Your dad didn't have to deal with social media and live streams," Frank points out. Several festival goers had recorded the entire event, and it's already trending. Hashtag Oak Ridge Defenders and hashtag Veterans versus Bikers. The cleanup takes hours. Federal agents process the scene, interview witnesses, catalog evidence. The Iron Skulls who weren't arrested fled, but roadblocks ensure they won't get far. Sarah finds her mother at Ruby's, which Marge has opened as a refugee center for frightened festival goers. Eleanor hugs her carefully, mindful of the ribs. "Is it over?" Eleanor asks. "This part is," Sarah confirms. Thompson will testify to save himself from terrorism charges. The Iron Skulls will fracture without leadership. The drug network will collapse. And us? Sarah considers the question. The network has been exposed, their capabilities revealed. They can't return to hidden lives. We adapt, she decides. Maybe Oak Ridge needs visible protectors instead of hidden ones. 3 days later, life in Oak Ridge has found a new normal. The festival concluded successfully despite the disruption. Tourists went home with wild stories. Locals walk a little taller, knowing their town stood against invasion. Sarah sits in Ruby's, her regular booth, watching normal life resume. Her ribs still hurt. Her prosthetic needs adjustment. But she's content. The delivery bag sits beside her, ready for the lunch rush. Derek Hayes enters tentatively, approaches her table. I wanted to apologize again, and to thank you for the warning. You were caught in the middle, Sarah says. It happens. The FBI cleared me, said I was a victim of extortion. He shifts uncomfortably. But I could have said no from the beginning. Should have. And lost everything? Maybe. But at least I'd have kept my integrity. He places an envelope on the table. The money they gave me. I want Ruby's to have it, for the damage they caused. Sarah watches him leave, recognizing the beginning of redemption. People make mistakes, fall into traps, but some find their way back. Viper sits in federal custody, having flipped immediately for a reduced sentence. She provides details about Iron Skull's operations across 6 states, earning witness protection, but losing everything else. Deacon, Tank, Rattler, and the others face decades in prison. The teenagers they exploited receive counseling and support, their families grateful for second chances. But questions remain. Who provided Thompson with intelligence about the veterans? How did he know about Operation Crossroads? Was Oak Ridge targeted randomly? Or was this a test of the Sanctuary Network? Sarah pulls out her father's challenge coin, studies its unfamiliar symbols. The phone number she called connected to a voice she didn't recognize, someone who simply said, "Understood," and mobilized federal resources within hours. There are layers to this story she hasn't uncovered, connections running deeper than drug trafficking, or even domestic terrorism. Her encrypted phone buzzes. A new message from an unknown sender. Well done, Sergeant Miller. Your father would be proud. The network held. Oak Ridge remains secure. But other sanctuaries face similar threats. Are you ready for the next mission? Sarah deletes the message, as protocol demands. But the question lingers. The network of veterans in Oak Ridge has been blooded now, tested, and proven. They could return to quiet lives, or they could become something more. A model for community defense against criminal invasion. Marge approaches with coffee and a gentle smile. Lunch rush starting soon. You planning to work today or just sit there looking heroic? Sarah laughs, though it hurts her ribs. Just sitting. Heroes don't deliver sandwiches. No, Marge agrees, they deliver justice, but sandwiches pay better. As Sarah stands to start her shift, she notices something new in Ruby's, a small plaque by the door. Protected by the Oak Ridge Veterans Network. It's acknowledgement, recognition, and warning all at once. Outside, Oak Ridge continues its small-town life. Children play in the park. Businesses serve customers. Democracy functions at its most basic level. Neighbors protecting neighbors. Communities standing together. The Iron Skulls thought they found an easy target, a weak point in America's heartland. Instead, they discovered what happens when warriors retire but don't forget their purpose. Protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Sarah adjusts her delivery bag, steps into the sunshine, and begins her rounds. She's still the delivery girl from Ruby's Cafe, still the woman with the titanium leg who brings food to farms and businesses. But now everyone knows she delivers more than food. She delivers hope, protection, and when necessary, justice. Thompson sits in federal custody, learning the price of underestimating small towns and the veterans who choose them as home. His empire has crumbled, his organization scattered, his plans destroyed by 12 people who refused to let their community fall. And somewhere in Oak Ridge, in hidden rooms and quiet conversations, the network prepares for the next threat. Because there's always another threat. But now they know they're not alone. The sanctuary holds, the veterans stand ready. And Sarah Miller, delivery girl and defender, rides her bicycle through streets that remain free, because someone was willing to fight for them. The story spreads beyond Oak Ridge, inspiring other communities. Veterans in small towns across America hear about the network that stood against the Iron Skulls and wonder if they could do the same. Criminals hear about it too and reconsider their expansion plans. But in Ruby's Cafe, life goes on as normal. Coffee gets poured, food gets delivered, and if the delivery girl sometimes pauses to scan the room with eyes that have seen too much, if the handyman's tools include things that aren't for construction, if the doctor's medical kit contains supplies for trauma beyond typical small-town injuries, well, that's just Oak Ridge's new normal. The summer festival becomes legend. The year the bikers came to town and learned what happens when you threaten the wrong community. Tourism actually increases, people wanting to see the place where veterans stood their ground. But for Sarah, the victory is quieter. It's Eleanor sleeping soundly, no longer worried about threats. It's Derek Hayes coaching Little League, his debt and shame behind him. It's 15 teenagers who got second chances instead of becoming statistics. As evening falls on Oak Ridge, Sarah makes her final delivery of the day. To Bill Henderson's farm, where the old Marine waits on his porch, rifles still within reach, but no longer needed. "Heard from my contacts," Bill says. 3 other Iron Skulls chapters have canceled expansion plans after what happened here. "Deterrence works," Sarah replies. "Your father always said that. He'd be proud of what you did." Sarah considers this. He helped build this network, didn't he? The whole sanctuary system. Bill's weathered face reveals nothing. "Some stories aren't mine to tell. But yes, your father was instrumental in establishing Oak Ridge as a refuge for warriors who'd seen enough war." The conversation could continue, could reveal more secrets, but some mysteries should remain. What matters is the present. Oak Ridge is safe, the network is strong, and evil has been turned away. Sarah rides home through the gathering darkness, her path lit by streetlights, and the knowledge that she's where she belongs. The titanium leg that Thompson mocked has carried her through another battle. The military training he tried to exploit became his downfall. Eleanor waits at home with dinner, and questions Sarah may never fully answer. But there's peace now, earned through courage and community. The Iron Skulls are finished. The sanctuary of Oak Ridge remains. And somewhere in federal custody, Raymond Crusher Thompson finally understands the truth. You can take the warrior out of the war, but when you threaten their home, the war comes to you. The story ends where it began. McDonald's on the edge of town, now bearing a small sign. Protected Establishment, Oak Ridge Veterans Network. Randy still works the night shift, $500 richer, but infinitely wiser about the cost of compromise. Sarah passes by on her final delivery run, catching Randy's grateful wave through the window. The young man has learned what Derek learned, what the whole town has learned, that standing up to evil is possible when you stand together. And if new threats emerge, if other criminal organizations think Oak Ridge might be vulnerable, they'll discover what the Iron Skulls discovered. That a small town with a big heart and trained defenders is the hardest target of all. Sarah Miller, delivery girl, veteran, defender of Oak Ridge, rides into the night knowing that tomorrow will bring new deliveries, new challenges, but also the certainty that her community stands ready. The war comes home sometimes. But sometimes home wins the war. 3 weeks pass before the first letter arrives. No return address, just Sarah's name written in precise handwriting that suggests military training. Inside, a single sheet of paper with coordinates and a time. 2 weeks from now, midnight. Sarah shows it to Frank Weber during their morning coffee at Ruby's. He studies the numbers, pulls out his phone, enters them into a mapping app. Middle of nowhere, eastern Oregon. High desert, about 200 miles from here. Trap? Sarah asks. Invitation, Frank corrects. Someone wants to talk. Someone who knows our protocols. The revelation that Oak Ridge is part of a larger network has haunted Sarah since the night her mother gave her the challenge coin. How many other towns like theirs exist? How many other veterans live in orchestrated isolation, waiting for activation? I'm going, Sarah decides. Not alone, Frank insists. No, but not the whole network either. You, me, Doc Wilson. Small footprint, high capability. 2 weeks later, under a moonless sky, they arrive at the coordinates to find an abandoned ranger station. The kind the Forest Service shut down during budget cuts. A single light burns in the window. Sarah enters first, her hand near the concealed weapon in her prosthetic legs compartment. Inside, a woman waits. 60-something, silver hair in a military cut, bearing that suggests decades of service. She wears civilian clothes but might as well be in uniform for all the authority she radiates. Sergeant Miller, she says. I'm Colonel Patricia Hayes, retired. I knew your father. Sarah tenses. Derek Hayes is your nephew, and an idiot who nearly destroyed everything we've built. The colonel's expression is granite. But his failure led to your success, so perhaps there's balance. Doc Wilson enters behind Sarah, his medical bag doubling as a weapons cache. Pat, Patricia Hayes from JSOC? Hello, Marcus, she replies, using Doc's first name for the first time Sarah's heard. Been a while. The pieces click together in Sarah's mind. You're part of the Sanctuary Network. Derek was supposed to be an asset, but the Iron Skulls got to him first. Correct. We've been monitoring threats to sanctuary towns for 20 years. Your father helped design the system after recognizing that veterans needed more than just VA hospitals and job training. They needed communities where their skills remained valuable, but dormant. Colonel Hayes pulls out a tablet, shows them a map of the United States with dozens of red dots scattered across rural areas. 43 sanctuary towns, each with between 8 and 15 veteran operators. Oak Ridge is one of 12 on the West Coast. And we just exposed ourselves, Frank says, understanding the implications. You saved yourselves, Hayes corrects. The Iron Skulls operation was a probe, testing our defenses. If Oak Ridge had fallen, they would have targeted every sanctuary town within 6 months. Sarah studies the map, noting patterns in the distribution. Small towns along major trafficking routes, near borders, close to military installations but not too close. Strategic positions for detecting and deterring threats. What exactly are we? Sarah asks. Military? Intelligence? Vigilantes? None and all, Hayes replies. Officially, we don't exist. Unofficially, we're a last line of defense against threats too small for federal attention, but too large for local law enforcement. Domestic enemies establishing footholds, foreign agents infiltrating communities, organized crime targeting vulnerable populations. Doc Wilson sets down his bag, his expression grim. The kids in Vietnam called us guardian angels. Looks like we still are. Your father, Hayes continues, focusing on Sarah, recognized that America's enemies had evolved. Instead of armies crossing borders, we face infiltration, subversion, community capture. He proposed the Sanctuary Network as an immune system, dormant until activated by threat. Why wasn't I told? Sarah demands.
Because you needed to discover your purpose naturally. Forced activation creates resentment, doubt, weakness. But organic response, protecting your community because you choose to, that creates strength. Sarah thinks about the past weeks, the decisions she made, the risks she took. All her choice, but guided by infrastructure her father put in place decades ago. The phone number Mom gave me? Direct line to a coordination center run by veterans like me. We can mobilize resources, provide intelligence, ensure federal response when needed. But we never direct operations. Each sanctuary maintains independence. Frank leans forward. So what now? Oak Ridge is exposed. The whole country knows about the Veterans Network. Hayes smiles for the first time. That's the beautiful irony. Public exposure makes you stronger. Criminals now know that some small towns have teeth. Foreign agents recognize that rural America isn't undefended. You've become a deterrent just by existing. She pulls up another screen, showing social media metrics. Oak Ridge Veterans Network has become a symbol. 12 other sanctuary towns have gone semi-public since your action, creating mutual defense agreements with local law enforcement. And the others? Sarah asks. Remain hidden. Some threats require shadows, but you've proven that visible protection works too. The meeting continues for 2 hours. Hayes provides intelligence about potential future threats, contact protocols for emergency support, and something unexpected: funding. Anonymous donations have poured in since the festival incident, she explains. Americans appreciate those who stand between them and chaos. The network now has resources for equipment, training, even medical support for operations. As dawn approaches, Hayes prepares to leave. Sarah, your father would be incredibly proud. You didn't just save Oak Ridge, you validated 20 years of preparation. Will we see you again? Sarah asks. Only if things go very wrong. But remember, you're not alone. 43 towns, roughly 500 operators, all connected by shared purpose if not direct communication. The drive back to Oak Ridge is quiet, each processing the revelations. As they enter town, the sunrise paints Main Street golden, and Sarah sees it differently now. Not just home, but a carefully chosen defensive position, populated by strategically placed guardians. They find the rest of the network gathered at Ruby's, Marge having opened early for the unusual meeting. Lisa Chen has used her NSA skills to verify Hayes' credentials, confirming she is who she claims. So we're part of something bigger, Jim Parker summarizes after Sarah's briefing. Question is, do we want to be? Bill Henderson speaks first. We already are, have been since we chose to settle here. Only difference now is we know why we all chose the same town. The publicity helps, Lisa adds. 3 tech companies have already inquired about setting up satellite offices in Oak Ridge, specifically because of our security reputation. The conversation continues, but Sarah steps outside, needing air and perspective. She finds her mother waiting by her bicycle, having somehow known where to be. You spoke to Colonel Hayes, Eleanor says. It's not a question. You knew about her? Your father mentioned her once, said she was the architect while he was the builder. Eleanor touches Sarah's face gently. He always believed you'd inherit his work, just not this directly. Did he know? About the IED? The leg? Eleanor's eyes fill with tears. No, sweetheart, he died thinking you'd have a normal military career. But he'd be proud that you overcame that loss to become something greater. Over the following months, Oak Ridge transforms. The Veterans Network becomes official, incorporated as a community watch organization with Sheriff Collins' blessing. They train local citizens in basic emergency response, creating layers of defense beyond the core operators. Ruby's Cafe becomes unofficial headquarters,
Marge installing a discreet memorial wall with photos of the network members in their military aids. Tourists come specifically to eat where the defenders of Oak Ridge gather. Sarah continues her delivery route, but now carries a radio linked to the network's communications system. Her prosthetic leg gets upgraded with military-grade components, courtesy of the anonymous donations Hayes mentioned. Derek Hayes finds redemption through community service, his construction company rebuilding the warehouse the Iron Skulls had contaminated. His work is meticulous, as if he's trying to literally construct his way back to honor. 6 months after the festival incident, another test comes. Not bikers this time, but a human trafficking ring attempting to use Oak Ridge as a waypoint for moving victims from Portland to Nevada. They expect a quiet town with overwhelmed police. They find the network waiting. This time the operation is surgical. No public confrontation, no festival chaos. Lisa identifies the traffickers through digital surveillance. Frank and Jim track their movements. Doc prepares medical support for victims, and Sarah coordinates with federal authorities to ensure proper handoff. 12 victims are rescued. 8 traffickers arrested. 0 civilian casualties. The operation is so smooth that most of Oak Ridge never knows it happened. "We're getting good at this," Frank observes afterward. "Maybe too good," Sarah worries. "What happens when we start looking for threats instead of responding to them?" It's Doc Wilson who answers. "Then we remember why we're here. Not for war, but for peace. We're the sheepdogs, not the wolves." A year passes. The network handles 3 more incidents: a meth lab establishing in the forest, an extremist group attempting to recruit local youth, a financial fraud scheme targeting elderly residents. Each time, they respond with appropriate force, always prioritizing law enforcement involvement when possible. Sarah receives occasional encrypted messages from other sanctuary towns, sharing intelligence and tactics. The network Colonel Hayes revealed is real but loose, connected by purpose rather than hierarchy. One evening, Sarah visits her father's grave for the first time since learning about his true work. The headstone reads simply, "Marcus Miller, soldier, father, patriot." "I understand now," she tells the stone. "You weren't just fighting for America over there. You were building defenses for America here. And Dad, we held the line. Oak Ridge stands." A rustling behind her reveals Bill Henderson, also visiting the cemetery. "He saved my life in Panama," Bill says quietly. "Never told you that, did I? Operation Just Cause, 89. I was pinned down, wounded. Your father carried me 2 miles through jungle to extraction. And you came to Oak Ridge because of him?" He contacted several of us, explained his vision. A network of warriors who'd earned peace but would stand ready if needed. How could we refuse? Sarah realizes the full scope of her father's legacy. Not just the network, but the relationships, the trust, the shared commitment to protecting what matters. "The network will outlive us all," Bill continues. "New veterans arriving, old ones training replacements. Your father built something self-sustaining." As they walk back toward town, Sarah's encrypted phone buzzes. Another sanctuary town reporting success. A child kidnapping ring stopped in Iowa. 5 kids rescued. Network coordination with FBI flawless. "We're making a difference," Sarah says. "We always did," Bill replies. "Now we just do it at home." The 2nd anniversary of the Iron Skulls incident brings unexpected visitors. 3 young veterans, fresh from Afghanistan, arriving with nothing but discharge papers and duffel bags. "We heard about Oak Ridge," one says. "Heard it's a place where people like us can find purpose." Sarah looks at them, wounded in ways both visible and hidden, searching for meaning after war, and sees herself 5 years ago. "Welcome to Oak Ridge," she says. "Let me introduce you to the network." And so it continues. The sanctuary grows, evolves, adapts. New threats emerge and are countered. The network strengthens with each test, proving that communities can defend themselves when populated by those willing to stand watch. Sarah Miller remains the delivery girl from Ruby's Cafe, riding her bicycle through streets she helped keep safe. Her titanium leg no longer feels like a loss, but a reminder of sacrifice that led to purpose. Thompson rots in federal prison, his testimony dismantling criminal networks across 6 states. The teenagers he exploited have recovered, some even visiting Oak Ridge to thank their rescuers. And somewhere in the high desert of eastern Oregon, Colonel Hayes monitors 43 dots on a map, each representing a town where warriors found peace, but kept their swords sharp, just in case. The story of Oak Ridge spreads, inspiring other communities to organize, prepare, protect. America's small towns, once seen as vulnerable, become hardened targets that criminals learn to avoid. Sarah ends each day the same way, checking the network status, confirming all is well, then sitting with Eleanor for dinner. 2 generations of military family maintaining their watch. "Any regrets?" Eleanor asks one evening. "None," Sarah answers honestly. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." Outside, Oak Ridge sleeps peacefully, protected by those who've seen war and choose peace. But remember how to fight when darkness comes calling. The sanctuary holds. The network endures, and the delivery girl with the titanium leg continues her rounds, bringing food to the hungry and justice to those who threaten her home. Years later, when people ask about the Iron Skulls incident, Sarah simply says, "They picked the wrong town." But locals know the deeper truth. Oak Ridge was never random, never helpless, never alone. It was carefully chosen, strategically populated, purposefully protected. A sanctuary that became a fortress when threatened. A quiet town with warriors in disguise. And somewhere, Marcus Miller's spirit watches his daughter fulfill the mission he began, proving that America's strength lies not in its armies abroad, but in its veterans at home, forever standing watch, forever ready, forever faithful.